freaking Harley Davidson news. Further Faster event happened today, everybody. I gotta talk about the Harley Davidson news. Did we get the new Sportster? Did we get some new fancy motorcycle? No. It just wasn't. I'm gonna say right out of the gate that A, I don't think this event was for me, and B, I am very disappointed by the stuff that I thought I was gonna see, but didn't. So we're gonna talk about all this stuff today, and we're gonna see whether or not it makes sense for me to be as butthurt, I suppose, as I am with having seen what I saw. Stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. Alrighty, so I am sitting here in front of this BMW here because it's the closest thing we have to a cruiser in the shop. It's all sport bikes all the time now, apparently. And so I wheeled the BMW in here to take up some space behind me. But I'm not here to talk about the BMW. By the way, if you want something like this, I guess you can check out Eurocycles. They've got all sorts of cool motorcycles like this. You can also win some motorcycles. Click on the links down in the description below. All that good stuff. But we're not here today to talk about that. We are here to talk about the Further Faster event, the world premiere. It is Harley's first reveal event for this year where they were going to show off some new models and some updates to their models. Harley does this thing every couple of months, but they've been slowly unveiling some new models and some model year updates for their bikes. And Further Faster is the first one of 2022, and as I said before, I am doing me a disappoint over Further Faster. It really felt like more of the same, which is a really big bummer. So, first of all, let's talk about the things that I wanted to see out of Further Faster. If you saw in a list I did a little while ago, I put out a prediction that Further was going to be some sort of sport touring version of the Pan America, and Faster was going to be some form of a super roided out version of the Sportster S, something that maybe has that 150 horsepower version of the Rev Max in it as opposed to the 121 or 124 that is currently in the Sportster S. We saw neither of those things today. However, I am going to say right out of the gate that this is the first reveal event, and they were very clear to say that there is more coming out of Harley Davidson this year. They've got some surprises. They teased new product or products, I don't remember. Either one or a couple new bikes, some new colorways we saw, but nothing that really made me excited and something that was like a game changer that I was really wanting to see out of the Further Faster event. I thought it was going to be just this big, this big game-changing thing, and it was just more like, here's bold new graphics. It's a bit of a bummer. Okay, now, let's talk about the good and the bad and some of the stuff that I just think is sort of meh and didn't need to be in this presentation. So, first of all, the good. The good is we saw the Lowrider ST. It's probably the thing that everybody is super, super excited about. It's basically a modernized version of the Lowrider S, harkening back to the FXRs and FXDR, I believe? No, FXDR was the power cruiser. It's basically like a modded out FXR based on the Lowrider S. So let's talk some specs on that. They upgraded the Lowrider S from the 114 to the 117. That 117 is putting down 125 foot-pounds of torque as opposed to about 115, 114 foot-pounds. So we're seeing a decent bump in power. They said it was you're really gonna feel like a kick in the pants. Not really. It's not going to be the fastest thing on the Harley lot. That's probably still going to either be the Sportster or the Pan America, which, I mean, both of those bikes are pretty damn quick off the line. Now, besides that 117 that they're putting in, they did a lot of modifications to this chassis. It's still using the Softail frame, but they've increased the rear suspension. They've modified it a little bit so that it sits higher. It feels like a little bit more sporty of a stance. And then they put a big fairing on the front of it, one of those Batwing fairings. Inside that, it's got speakers and all sorts of infotainment, and they moved the gauge from in the middle of the dash to up on the handlebars. That's actually a good thing. I like that they're going away from that tank-mounted dash and onto one that's up on the handlebars, because it means that you can get that T-bar setup a little bit better. Something like this and you're just having to look straight as opposed to having to look down and up and down. However, that's as far as new models go, that's all we get, and it's not really a new model in my opinion. They are saying it's a new bike, but it's really just a premium version of the lowrider as far as I'm concerned. It's the lowrider with bags, it's the lowrider with a fixed fairing. It's basically the lowrider that you would build it out to be if you like that West Coast style version of the Dyna or anything like that. That's the bike that you would build, and now Harley's selling it to you. I'm not sure that if it were me, I would spend the increase in cash, because you know they're not bringing the Lowrider S price down. They're just going to boost the price for the Lowrider ST. So, and again, if they do change, if they do drop the price on that and I'm wrong, I will eat my words, but chances are the Lowrider ST is probably going to be something around the order of 22,000, 20, something like that. Because the Lowrider S is currently sitting at 18.5, if I'm not mistaken. It's right around there. Whitney can put the actual numbers here on screen. But they haven't announced a price, at least not at time of filming, for the Lowrider ST. I'm just assuming probably north of 20,000 bucks, 22. And they're keeping the black and bronze. They're going with this gray, this like primer gray, which they're like, it's a big thing in the muscle car space. And I'm like, guys, you're here to talk about motorcycles. Stop comparing your motorcycle to some cool car. Make it a cool motorcycle. Car scene, that's not what I come to bikes for. I specifically came to motorcycles to talk about bikes. I'm not trying to chase trends in cars. Harley should be setting trends in motorcycles like they did back in the day. For better or worse, whether or not you like it, at home, Harley really changed the game with styling. They were the ones that came up with the Dark Customs line. They came up with all of this cool stuff, and they set the trends, and now it kind of feels like they're chasing them a little bit. So I'd like to see Harley come back and be like, they have this new thing, it's super cool, just something out of the box that only the guys at Harley with their power and their pedigree and all of the resources that the Milwaukee company can bring to bear on a new bike. And it didn't feel like they did that with this one. Now, we are also going to talk about the CVO stuff, because this is where I'm like, it's not for me. I was not the target audience of this. I do not care at all about the CVO stuff. It's just, that is a world that I am not involved in. Those bikes are too big for me. It costs so much money. It's just like, I get it. They're the flagship motorcycles, and you want to put a lot of effort, and you want to show the guys that they're giving them new stuff. But it didn't feel that way. What they did show is they did show a lot of the King of the Baggers stuff, and they're very proud of how they're doing with King of the Baggers. And that's awesome. I like to see them going racing, but let's be real. The King of the Baggers, while it's a fun event, it's not like going to suddenly become MotoGP or anything like that. It's a pretty small, like, oh, that's cool, check out these bikes. They're crazy people racing them around a racetrack and doing all sorts of weird stuff that it's not designed to do. That's really cool. It's like flat track almost. Pretty small niche audience. And again, while it's cool to see them getting involved in racing, it's like, to show that your bagger is really fancy and a super performance model by comparing it to such a customized motorcycle that's so specific and so unique, with like basically the only thing that's the same is the frame, right? And even then you've got like these Olin shocks and all sorts of crazy stuff. I think that trying to pin all your hopes for the CVO on showing guys that you can make a King of the Baggers bike at home, you really can't. Those things are wild in person, and they're so different from the stuff that you're going to be able to make that I really don't see the correlation there. It's like, this is a cool thing that they're doing on the side, and they're trying to convince people that this is going to sell, that your bike is just like this. It's not like race on Sunday, sell on Monday, like you get with leader bikes and World Superbike. It's just not. So in that sense, the CVO stuff it's bold new graphics. Let's be honest. Let's be totally honest. For 2022, CVO got bold new graphics. One thing that Yam was trying to tell me before, we were actually sitting around trying to theorize what was going to be in it. And I told him, I was like, I think it's a Sport Touring Pan America and this different Sportster. And Yam was like, it's going to be a CVO with the RevMax engine in it. And if they had done the CVO with the RevMax engine, I could be a little bit more excited about that. Again, it's not a bike for me, right? I would never run out and buy a CVO with any kind of engine in it. It's just not my world. Now, one thing I will say, after dogging on the Further Faster a little bit as I start to wrap my thoughts up on this whole event, is while I am disappointed by what I saw, I am still hopeful for the guys over at Harley Davidson to produce some of these really cool motorcycles that I'm sitting here thinking about, because they're like all in on the Pan America. When I've talked to the guys at the Pan Am event, everything on the table, they're really pushing they're really putting everything on the development of the Pan America and motorcycles like the Sportster S. So I do think we're going to see something. I just don't think it was ready yet for this event, which it's a bit of a bummer, but they did say they have some stuff coming. And again, while I am sad that I didn't call it quite right, and the Sportster S is still the fastest cruiser that they're selling, I don't know. I think the future is still bright. They just, again, they gotta want it. And I think that the folks that I've talked to from the motor company, they want it. They want it bad. It's a big monolithic company and change doesn't come overnight. And I'm expecting change overnight. So those are my thoughts, more or less, on the Further Faster event. CVO, nah, who cares? That's not my world. Lowrider ST, sure, cool. But I don't think it's a new model and a revolution in the way that they're putting it. It's just another Milwaukee 8 bike in the Softail frame with some cool stuff on it that has completely, by the way, completely made the Sport Glide superfluous. I don't think with this bike on the showroom, anybody's grabbing a key to a Sport Glide. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd just get the really cool one, you know? It's basically like the good Sport Glide, and then you have the Sport Glide you have at home is the 107 Sport Glide. They really need to put like a 114 or the 117 in there, because it is still the runt of the litter. I mean, come on. So there you have it, my thoughts on Further Faster. When I was sitting in the car and I was running around trying to get stuff for the video we were filming earlier today, I had it going on in the background. And in my head, I was just like, everything I'm hearing, to sum it up, is like the sound of a pigeon hitting a glass pane, just like a thump, and then it plops on the ground. I've sort of softened on that. I still think it let me down, but it is nice to see that they are still very passionate about what they're doing. I just don't think they should have devoted 5 to 10 minutes to motor clothes. That felt weird. So there you have it. Further Faster. I'm looking forward to the future, but I'm not gonna run out and grab the keys to any of the bikes I saw today. Now, with all that being said, again, remember, if you want to get entered to win some sport bikes or you want to go buy yourself a motorcycle, click the links down in the description below. Get yourself signed up to win or buy one from Eurocycle, all that cool stuff. I'm going to keep my finger on the pulse of this Harley Davidson news. We've actually got something coming up with them. I'm not sure how much I can say about it. Sometime in the next soon. Yeah, we've got something with Harley working on. So you'll get some new content with them. I hope I get some more Pan America time, because that's basically my favorite bike right now. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Keep watching Yami News.